We are set for another Friday night of racing here at the Stafford Motor Speedway, featuring all 5 of our weekly divisions and Bonssa Tufa for a third time this season. The Open Modifieds will join us for an Open 80 this week, sponsored by Casella Waste.
And it should be a fun one. It's going to be a good field of cars, a very competitive field of cars, as always when the Open Modifieds come to town. And the last time we saw them here last month, Glenn Reen found victory lane, and he brought the 10A, the Dan Avery-owned car, back to victory lane. It was a feel-good story all around for Glenn, for Dan, and Keith Rocco and Jeff Rocco, who helped that team out as well. A good field of cars, and it's a mix of Stafford's homegrown drivers that have done really well, and some of the people from outside Connecticut that are also really good.
Including the current SK Modified point leader, also outside of Connecticut, and Jimmy Blewett.
Yep.
The SK Light point leader currently in George Bissett Jr. The most recent SK Modified winner, Marcello Refrano. Two-time former champion, Ronnie Williams. Eric Goodale, Woody Pitkat, the list goes on and on. I believe 26 at least strong right now.
And John McKennedy, Chris Pastriak, and they all have a chance to compete at the front and get the victory.
Going to be a great race to highlight a very busy night of racing that will also include the SK Modifieds. 4 races, 4 winners here in 2023.
And wow, what a battle we saw last Friday. Jimmy Blewett versus Marcello Refrano, switching the lead back and forth in the final 10 to 15 laps of the race. But in the end, the young gun, Marcello Refrano, gets it done. His 3rd career SK Modified win. But in the end, after all that battling, those two very classy towards each other. They enjoyed the show. They gave each other a thumbs up in their car after they took the checkered flag. A great run for Team 88 after how they started the year. What a way to bounce back. A 2nd and a 1st in their last 2 races.
They started the year with 2 motor issues on Spring Sizzler weekend with a 26th place finish in the very first feature. One driver that has had no issues like that as of yet, the 85 team, Petty Cash Motorsports and Jimmy Blewett.
Kyle, don't jinx him. Come on, don't jinx him. No, but they've been fast. 4 podiums to start off the year. A 1st, a 3rd, a 2nd, a 2nd. They're starting almost every race in 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. By lap 10, they're in the top 5, if not in the podium spot. And then they find time to go for the lead. That team is on it right now. And JJ, their crew chief, he told me they're really excited for the heat of summer because they feel that's when their car's at their best. And if that's the case, the field's going to have a hard time. But there's other cars that have shown a lot of speed. We mentioned Marcello, Blewett. Steven Kopchak has been fast this season. He got a top 5 finish after pitting early in the race following an incident. Keith Rocco's been there. He hasn't been there at the end, but the first 25, 30 laps, we see him running top 3. If he can get that car consistent in the last 5 to 10 laps, he'll be up there. Corey DiMatteo, another podium run. He's been up there, and even Tyler Hines, he's been kind of sneaky. Hines has 2 top 5s this year. He started 16th last Friday and finished 4th.
So a lot of big names looking to continue that winner streak here this Friday night. In the late models, a same kind of streak. 4 winners, 4 races, and a fairly new name to the division, but a former track champion in Napa Victory Lane last Friday.
Andrew Duran gets his 40th career Stafford victory. Not many drivers can say they won 40 times at this track. And at one point, he was going through the grass in the back straightaway.
He was.
I don't know if he ever lifted, but he kept it straight, avoided an incident, and then later on capitalized on a restart to get past Alex Fern on the outside, and he never looked back. His 2nd career late model win. That team has been good. He had a 4th and another top 10 beforehand. He wrecked in the season opener, but since then, that 43 has shown some speed, and he really showed it on Friday night.
And a very tight championship battle as well. I know it's early, it's only mid-June, but Adam Gray looking for championship number 5. Looks good right now.
Yes, although this past Friday night wasn't the easiest of nights. He got penalized after contact with Tom Fern, who fell out of the race eventually because of mechanical problems. And then Adam just found himself mid-pack, getting caught up in a bit of a tussle with a few other drivers. So it wasn't the best of runs for him, but he is still atop the point standings because of Tom Fern's tough run. Kevin Gambacorta 2nd in points. Kevin's been kind of quiet the last few weeks. Maybe not the car he's looking for, especially he says he loves having a good long-run car. Just last Friday, he was fine. He was up there battling for 4th, but we haven't quite seen him battle for the lead yet, but there's still a long ways to go.
2nd in the championship standings going into this week for Kevin Gambacorta. In the SK Light Modifieds, there's 2 drivers, maybe 3, trying to distance themselves from the field, and right now they're pretty much top 3 almost week in and week out.
Well, Brian Sullivan, George Bissett Jr. have been top 2 in the last 2 races. Brian Sullivan gets his 3rd win of the year in 4 races. Mind you, he's a former champion. He's fast in this division. but he had to hold off Bassett, who almost pulled off one of the best comebacks in recent memory because he fell to the rear of the field after a black flag and almost pulled it off, fell 0.07 of a second short of his second win of the year. But just like Blewett, Bassett, 4 races, 4 podiums. He's the point leader right now. Brian Sullivan second, and another driver who's been very quietly fast is Nick Anglais in the 10 car. He's been a consistent top 5 contender. But man, Bob Charland, we can't forget about him. He almost went wire to wire, so close to breaking that drought, but he was really good and he needed that run.
A drought that dates back to 2013. His last checkered flag in the SK Light Division led, 19 3/4 laps?
Yes.
Lost it in 3 and 4 on the final circuit, but no doubt he'll get that win. Also want to give a quick shout out to Cassandra Cole, top 5 in the championship standings.
She's stayed out of trouble, which was her biggest trouble last season, and I'm not saying it's of her own doing either. She just got caught up in bad luck early on last year. But this year, she's got 3 straight top 10 finishes, kept the car in one piece, and she's not exactly the happiest with the handling of the car. So once they get that car dialed in, who knows what's next for her? She got a podium last year, and she's just staying up front every single lap, and that's big.
Staying out of trouble, and that is key in a division that starts about 33 cars every Friday night. In the limited late models, it was Jeremy Lavoie getting to victory lane, getting that checkered flag, but it wasn't easy.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Jeremy Lavoie found himself third with about 3 or 4 laps to go, and all of a sudden, Devin Jensick, who led most of the race until 3 to go, has contact with Rich Hammond. It leads to Jensick pounding the wall in turn 2, while Rich Hammond has a flat tire as a result, so he has to park it. That opened the door for Jeremy Lavoie. He gets his first win of the year. The last few seasons, Lavoie has taken a while to get that first win of the season, usually not until midsummer. Not this time around. He's shown good speed from the get-go, gets the first win out of the way, and when the first win gets out of the way, Kyle, the rest usually come in a little bit easier.
And that win came in the division's longest event of the year, the Riley Generators 30. Matt Clement continued his consistency at the front on the podium, maintains the point lead. But again, like Jeremy, it wasn't easy.
Oh, gosh. Matt Clement spun out twice, had a heck of a save on the front stretch after contact with Adrian Paradise III, among other close calls he's had, not just last Friday night, but throughout the season. Nonetheless, that 59, it just shows how fast that car is because no matter how many times he fell to the back because of incidents or what other things happen, he finds himself back towards the front.
And the limited late models will be part of the action on Friday, as will the street stocks. Want to start the conversation with the point leader. He hasn't been to victory lane yet, but Burt Willett keeping the nose clean and staying out of trouble.
Week 5, and we're already talking about points, but that's how important it is to set a good tone this early because the season is decided, the championship is decided from beginning to the end. Burt Willett hasn't had the fastest car every week. We know that Travis Hydar and Ryan Waterman have been the class of the field, but Burt has been a consistent 3rd to 5th place car, and most of all, he has stayed out of trouble. He almost had trouble in turn 1 on one of the restarts last Friday, got dead sideways, kept it straight, and still had a good run. And that's why he's the point leader, because Travis Hydar last Friday, somebody broke in front of him. Aaron Plemons lost a drive shaft, and Hydar had nowhere to go, got into the back of Plemons, almost ripped the fender off, and that ended his night. Waterman already had a bad night the week before getting caught up in a wreck. He bounces back, gets his 3rd win of the year in 4 races. So right now, Burt Willett's the point leader. Waterman and Hydar are fast, but there's one other driver I want to talk about, Kyle, that's been sneaky consistent because he's got back-to-back second places, and that's the Wicker.
That is Johnny Walker looking for what would be a record-tying win in the all-time leaderboard, and he's been second the last 2 weeks, so keep an eye out on that 0-1 as he wants so much to get back to Napa Victory Lane. Those are just some of the storylines here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Going to be a big night of racing, 6 divisions strong, led by the Open Modifieds and the Casella Waste Open 80. Going to be a great night of action. It all gets underway at 6 o'clock here at Stafford, and like every week, if you can't join us, be sure to tune us in on Flow Racing.